Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Wolves podcast. My name's Nathan. I'm your host for today, and I'm joined by Chris. Chris, how are we doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks, Nathan. As I was saying to you, I'm a bit tired for all those other parents and people out there. Kids went back to school this week, trying to get back into the routine of the school runs and all that stuff after having a few occasional, chill mornings. And I'm exhausted, to be honest, dude. I'm halfway through the week and I'm gone. I'm spent.
Back in full flow, and no doubt the Wolves 3-0 defeat on Monday evening really helped that cause as well.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah. How are we feeling then? It's a few days since yourself and James had the immediate post-match reaction. How are we feeling now? You've sort of been able to watch the highlights back. What's the feeling on that game now that it's kind of settled?
The feeling on the game is still, I think, there's still elements of hope, I think, from the fact that going forward without Cunha, we showed that we can create chances. I know we didn't put the ball away, but I think it's one of those things on any other day, we could have had 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I mean, Larson could have had a hat trick himself. So I'm not too worried about that half of the pitch. It just emphasized how short we are in squad depth at the back and how much we can't wait for the new rival of Agbadu. I'm going to slaughter that name.
Do.
Thank you.
Something like that.
Yeah. And potentially anyone else. And it also just made me think about how I think we all looked at that team sheet when it was announced and thought 8 Nori in the back 3. No.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. And that first goal of theirs particularly, he's kind of, you watch it, and I remember thinking at the time, he just gives so much space. He's like, he's in no man's land. He's running back with Bueno. Bueno is kind of in line with Gibbs-White the whole time. I know there's a bit of a gap, but he's at least between him and the goal.
Yeah.
But when the ball comes across to the winger, Aït-Nouri is neither here nor there. He's just in the midst. He's in literally no man's land, and he's got so much space then to pick out the pass back to Gibbs-White. And that was the one thing. And we felt, I think all game, he just showed that he's not, he can't go there.
Yeah. He kind of didn't make Elanga make any decision. So he kind of just stayed in as you said, like a really neutral position, which I guess, we can understand given his inexperience playing in a more central defensive role. But yeah, absolutely gave him all the space in the world and time to kind of, get his head up and pick the right pass. But I thought that, that first goal altogether, the fact that we were on the attack and had sort of on the front foot really, and that one pass through the midfield leads to the whole pitch opening up, that just can't happen. And having watched it back, Tommy Doyle really does rush in, and he's not known for his pace. So yeah, I'd argue in that position he should really just have held back a little bit more and had the awareness of kind of, right, if I get beat here, they're onto our back 3. Mm-hmm. And surely when you line up the way we've lined up, you're aware that our back 3's a little bit inexperienced, especially with Aït-Nouri. So a bit frustrating. And then the second goal, I don't know, I thought it's just a big lump upfield and no one challenges for it. I don't want to, everyone's appealing. I watched it back today and I think Tommy Doyle and the back 3 all have their hand up because I'm assuming they thought Hudson-Odoi was offside. But even so, we know that they play through these phases, even if the player is offside. You've got to attack that ball. You can't let it be the equivalent of a goal kick and it's bounced and landed in Hudson-Odoi's feet without a challenge. And you just know if you went up for that header as Matt Doherty, Hudson-Odoi isn't challenging him in the air, is he? So it's frustrating really, especially right before half time, because I thought I don't think we deserved to be necessarily 1-0 down on the balance of things, but definitely not 2.
No, that first goal, like you mentioned about Aït-Nouri, the thing, I know he's not a centre-back, but he has been a left wing-back. He's got defensive experience. And so it's just the fact that there seemed to be no attempt to then, once the ball does go out wide, there's no rush to close it down. He doesn't, even then there should be an instinct, right? To just go go there, quickly shut him down and make it harder for him to do anything. But he doesn't. He just kind of ambles and leaves him all that space. And then the second one, you mentioned it similarly to me the other day. Doc kind of lets it bounce and go over them. It doesn't preempt the ball. And then even then, it's not like 10 years ago. You should play to the whistle anyway, but they will just keep going now. You have to just carry on.
Yeah. And I think, we're going to, obviously we'll focus in on the 3 goals that we conceded and naturally so, but how Strand Larsen hasn't, I was trying to make an excuse for him for either one really, but I honestly can't. They're both, you have to score both those opportunities. The ball in for the second one is absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. If he glances it, it's in. If he gets a good connection on it, it's in. But he's just found that sweet spot in the middle where the goalkeeper is.
It's it's a beautiful cross from Gomez. I mean, I thought he was actually Gomez had a pretty good game again.
Yeah.
And it just makes you sad that he's had to wait for O'Neill to go to get more of these opportunities, because O'Neill kept going. He's not ready. He looks a handful, and we've seen him play at left. Yeah, we've seen him play at left wing back, and and up front. And either way, wherever he is on that left, he seems confident and capable. And the crosses are just beautiful, and it's what Strand Larsen needs. And I know he didn't put it away, but that's what we've been begging for Larsen to get, is more crosses into the box. And similarly with Lima on the other side, we finally got a glimpse of Lima, and he's got a beautiful cross on him. Yeah,
I was about to say Lima on the other side as well. Two really bright sparks, and it's good to know that we've got that depth in those two positions. And I guess it's just the depth in centre half that we're waiting on this Agbadou signing to bring it, because we don't want to see Aït-Nouri at centre half again, ideally.
No, I mean, I think the most shocking thing was the confusion over the fact that the Semedo injury kind of came out of the blue. That we saw that back lineup and everyone was like, where is Semedo? Because that was a very last minute addition to the injury reports. And so obviously, even if he's anywhere either in that back three or at right wing back, potentially, one of those goals doesn't happen, because he's not going to leave Doc in as vulnerable position as we spoke about how positive Lima is, but arguably not as defensively minded as Semedo. And some of those opportunities wouldn't have fallen the way they did.
Yeah, true. He was positioned very high up, especially if we look at their second goal on that goalkeeper's clearance. He is quite high up, and arguably you'd want him to be a bit further back, especially knowing that Doc's main weakness is his pace. But no, I thought they were positive performances. It was weird, actually. I think that starting lineup is almost what you'd expect to see whilst playing away against Bristol City in the cup.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was a preempted kind of cup squad with a few youngsters in there. Tommy Doyle ahead of Andre, who wasn't able to make it to the game, I believe, because he was still travelling back or in transit or whatever from Brazil and the birth of his son. But yeah, Strand Larsen has to score one of those chances. I thought Sells in goal for Forest was brilliant, and it was like the perfect away performance, and we know those Nuno performances so well, but we had to score at least a couple there. I know they always kind of say, the goalkeeper, it just hit him, and you got to give him a bit of praise. Like, it is a very good save from his header, but from a Wolves perspective, he has to score it.
Yeah, no, I think that goalie overall had a great game. He did make a few good saves. I mean, that shot from Gomez, I know it's fairly close to him, but the power on it, I mean, it was a rocket. And he made a couple of other good saves, because Larsen had another decent shot later on. So I think that the keeper did have a great day. And I will say, though, that I know, like you said, Larsen's got to put at least one of them away. However, I do think, as is always the way on socials, people are being a little bit harsh on him and forgetting all the good work he's done so far this season. Because I'm seeing so many posts of, he's rubbish, all this, and like he's not good enough. But you've got to think, 7 goals already, a couple of assists in a team that hasn't been doing well. And the one thing you can say, right, is he's in the place to get the chances. I mean, that's half the battle, right, in any of these. For me, that's key. And I think Steve Bull has said it himself. If your striker is in the right place, getting the chances, he's happy, because that at some point it's gonna click.
Yeah.
And if you're not getting the chances, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think bigger picture, he's been brilliant for us this season. And as a striker overall, I know that they're ultimately always going to be judged on how many goals they score, what are their goal contributions, but his overall play and just the way he brings other players into the attacking fold is brilliant. And I think that I can't remember who I saw say this recently. I think it might have been Alan Shearer or someone, just saying like when they came off the pitch, their main thought was, did I make it difficult for the centre halves? And I think that Strand Larsen, most games in the Premier League this season, can come off and say, I made those centre halves work pretty hard. And his physicality, his runs are brilliant, and his overall reading of the game, I think, is very good. Good for strikers. You don't always get, sometimes they make the wrong passes at the wrong time, but you don't see him give it away like in our own half very often, which I think is, again, we're not talking about him, and he helps out so much as well defensively from corners. So there's so much to his game, so much more than just those goal contributions. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be a little bit rash to say that he's poor.
Yeah, and given that you weren't here on the initial match reaction, once you've done the update I think you're about to do, I do have a couple of questions for you about the game, but I'll let you carry on.
Well, the update I was going to do is saying that 3-0 defeat is obviously another 3 on our goal difference as well, and leaves us outside the relegation zone by 1 goal, both on 16 points, Wolves and Ipswich, which it's crazy how fast things move in the Prem. But a week ago we're talking about looking up the table a little bit, and all of a sudden you get sort of reminded very quickly. Ipswich, a couple of good results, and straight back into the mix almost. So yeah, how do we feel about our position at the minute?
Yeah, I feel a little bit. I mean, obviously, we've had that rush of optimism from the 3 results that got us out of the relegation zone. Yeah, it's the fact that Ipswich have pulled off these recent results, which has made it a little bit more scary. It just goes to show that, anyone on any day in the league can actually pull off a moment against anyone. It's a tough league all round. I mean, they go and beat Chelsea and draw against Fulham. I'm a little bit worried knowing that our next few games include the likes of Newcastle and Arsenal and whoever else. It's a tough run of 4 or 5 games, but that first half against Forest showed the amount of chances like we just mentioned, the amount of chances we had. We're doing that against a team that, whatever you think of the players on paper, their league position and their run of results shows that they're on a flyer. And yet that for a large chunk of that first half, we were dominating. I know it's a goals results game, but we were dominating a large period of that game. And I know, like we said, on another day, Larson scores a couple of those. So if, Semedo gets fit and we get this new guy in, maybe one more, with a more stable back line, I would hope that we can get some unexpected points from this run of games. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna pin my hat on that and not go completely doom and gloom.
Yeah, no, I agree. And before, I know you said you had a couple of questions for me. Before we hear those, I just want to give everyone a quick reminder that here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more. So, Chris, you said you had a couple of questions for me.
I do.
Put me on the spot. I'm ready.
So my first one was, you said you've watched some of it back again. What did you make? What are your thoughts on Hwang's performance in the game?
It's a tricky one with Hwang. I kind of swing between 2 positions with him. There's times when I think his movement and work ethic and decision making is brilliant, because it always seems to come off. And there's other times where things don't go his way, and I think that all that movement and effort was just a fluke. Not the effort being a fluke, but the sort of goals and chances he creates for himself. Because I think of that Larson first chance where Hwang checks inside.
Yep.
Hwang's shooting. I don't think he's trying to pick Larson out there.
Oh no, it was a shot. You
He's
can tell it was a
shooting,
shot.
right? Yeah. I think over some of the commentary they were saying that they thought he was picking him out.
No,
But
for me it was
anyway,
blatant. Yeah.
blatant shot. There's a couple that moment where Murillo made a sort of had a poor touch and Hwang is in, and we've got 4 players on an overload in that position, and he decides to take a shot, and it's his standing foot that takes it out of the way.
Mm.
And it might be just in the moment now, having watched that game, that I'm thinking this, but I just think there's times where when I hear the rumours about people coming in for him and the money that's around it, and I think part of that is maybe the sort of marketing element that comes with Hwang, but I think just take the money. Just take it, because if you come in 25 million for Hwang tomorrow, I'd snap your hand off. Because I think the season that he had last season, I really hope I'm wrong, but I think that his output last season is probably more likely to be his ceiling rather than his floor, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of my feeling on Hwang at the minute.
It kind of does, and I guess I asked for the same reason we spoke about last. And obviously on social media, he's an easy target for everyone to pick on. I think particularly with being, the nationality he's from, and then the links to Asia and Fosun and that whole thing, like you mentioned, marketing yourself in that very pitch. So I think he's always an easy target on social media for however he performs, and so I think it's worth asking from trying to focus it on a football perspective, and make sure we are always looking at the right angle, if that makes any sense.
I think look, there's the finances and whatever that largely is irrelevant to his, I guess, footballing ability right now, because he's a Wolves player and we want to see him do as well as he can for Wolves. I think he does work the defences hard because he makes a lot of runs. I think that is one of the constants in his game, is his high energy. I do think that he can improve on certain quality elements within his game, and I think he does. I do think at times he adds stuff to the Wolves squad, and he seems to have this ability to be in the right place at the right time, similar to Strand Larsen. He always pops up with important goals in important games for us. So that speaks for itself. And I guess this is the side of me swinging between two opinions on him, because as you're kind of saying that, I'm remembering his goal against City at home. I'm remembering his goal away at Brentford. Games like that where he shows his quality. But I guess what you do know with Hwang is what the kind of the level of output you're getting, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to close loads the defenders down. He's going to be in shape defensively. Whereas there's other attacking players where, depending on the day, you're not 100% sure of what you're going to get out of them, I guess. So I guess from that perspective, I can see Pereira and O'Neill, I think, may have seen it the same way, as he's a fairly reliable choice.
Yeah, because for me, you had periods in that game, like you said, people I think always focus on the negatives for some of the reasons we mentioned. So like you mentioned the one where he's got choices, but he skewed it off because it hit his standing foot, and other moments like that. And people forget the other moments in the game where he has, I watched it live, and then some bits since, where he has defensively worked hard, even, in our third of the pitch, to kind of win the ball back at points, or up front, like we mentioned the first chance for Larsen, where it's his drive forward and then cut back in the box, and the shot that even creates the opportunity. And then once again, he's got that little cutback that he did so well against Newcastle a season or two ago, was it, where he literally leaves the defender on his bum, that lovely move where he just he's going so quick, and then he stops dead and brings it back, and that creates the moment. So and I think people just forget. I'm not saying he's doing that all the time, but I think we forget sometimes those moments when we focus on all of the negative aspects as well.
Yeah, I do agree.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
You are very good at bringing the positives. You're very good at bringing the positives into it. I think on a positive with Hwang is that he is very good with both his feet, which I think is part of the reason that he's able to sit defenders on their arses so much, is because he'll go to shoot on his left, and it's a real possibility that he'll score with his left. So defenders do go and throw themselves at at his shots because he can score with both feet pretty comfortably. But if I'm playing the devil's advocate on the other side, is many strikers can score with both feet as well. So I know it's a constant back and forth. But
before we move on, my final question was
go on.
Yeah, my final question, was who would be your man of the match from the game? Because we didn't actually talk about that at any point on Monday. I don't think. Did you have who would be? I know we lost, but who's your Wolves?
Just a Wolves perspective.
Wolves perspective, yeah.
It's a tough one, that. I might go Rodrigo Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the energy that he brought going forwards.
Yep.
And I think that when you've got a wing back who can, and we see Nori do it regularly, when you've got a wing back who can really, raise the energy in a stadium through moments of quality, and Rodrigo Gomez is showing it through his, a bit of skill, but his deliveries have been fantastic. That cross for Larson, but he did it multiple times. So I'd probably go him, but I thought there was, Lima can hold his head high on it for his first Premier League start. I thought he was good and showed moments as well.
Yeah, he can, but I think my choice was actually Rodrigo Gomez as well for same reasons. Full of energy, he always wants to get past someone or get across into the box nice and early as well. He doesn't dilly-dally, just like he's looking to get it in there. And that cracking shot on the volley, he just, he's a handful, and I like it. I think João Gomez did okay as a workhorse in midfield. I know it wasn't the best game, but again, pretty much everywhere, winning balls back and putting his heart out there as always. But Rodrigo Gomez for me.
Yeah. No, you're right on João Gomez. He sometimes goes a bit unnoticed, but the work he does, we just come to expect it each week. Mm-hmm. But it's outstanding the fact that he's able to do that for full 90 minutes. He rarely gets taken off, well, especially when Andre isn't playing. But Nuno overall did a very good job on us. And speaking of Nuno, before we started recording this episode, I rewatched the highlights from the Forest game, but also in the suggested column on YouTube came up a beautiful highlight from 2017 in December. So if I cast our listeners' attention back to 2017, where Wolves played our opponents in the FA Cup, coming up opponents, Bristol City, away at Ashton Gate in the Championship back in 2017, and we beat them 2-1. Danny Bart got a red card in the first half. They went 1-0 up. We then brought it back with a Barry Douglas free kick. These are all names that just so nostalgic to me. And then in the dying moments of the game, Barry Douglas free kick whipped in, and backstick is big Ryan Bennett to head it home for a 2-1 win away from home. And in the crowd was Nuno giving it large, to say the very least, to what were Bristol City staff, I think, that were around him, as Nuno was, I think, red carded in the previous game or something. Anyway, I just thought that was a bit of nostalgia that I obviously clicked on the video and rewatched it a couple of times.
While you're there reminiscing, while you were there reminiscing about the cup win over Bristol City, it gives me an opportunity to remind everyone to look even further back, to not a cup win, but back when we used to play them regularly in the league in the 90s, because of course my first ever live Wolves experience was away to Bristol City in 94 when we beat them 5-1 and David Kelly got a hat-trick. So YouTube that one, my friends, because that was my first game in person. I've been a Wolves fan watching them on telly, obviously, since forever, but that was my first live experience. Great days.
Oh, so was that was on telly, was it?
No.
Can I find it somewhere on the web?
Oh, the clips are on YouTube. I've seen them myself when I was being nostalgic one day. I was there in the flesh because at the time I went down to Bristol for the weekend to see someone. And so we went to the game. We went to because Wolves were playing away the same weekend. And that was actually my first live Wolves game, was not at Molineux, was away at Bristol City of all places. And so, and we won 5-1.
Very good. Was it still Ashton Gate back in the day? Was it still the same stadium? Do you know?
I can't remember the name of the
I'm putting you
stadium.
on the
It may
spot
be.
here.
I'm afraid I'm not a big Bristol City knowledge person, so I can't remember where exactly it was.
I'll check the black and white highlights, shall I? I'll do that afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we travel to Ashton Gate on Saturday. It's a midday kickoff, which it does feel like the FA Cup when it's a midday kickoff, and it's like, round 2, round 3, round 4. That it does feel like
it does.
Is it
midday because it's televised somewhere?
I'm not too sure the reason behind it.
Probably in another country where it's not accessible to us.
Yeah, the people in Saudi want to watch it or something. But I was. It's a weird time because usually the midday kickoffs are when there's a massive rivalry, or they want to try and keep the fans out of the pubs. So they put the games a bit forward, like the West Brom one in the FA Cup last season. But yeah, Wolves obviously bowed out of the FA Cup last season in a game that I try not to remember too much, against Coventry City. What's our kind of mentality going into this? I know that James and yourself kind of touched on it in our previous episode, and obviously our main focus is remaining as a Premier League club next season. But are we wanting to dream about a little FA Cup run again?
I mean, to be honest, I love the FA Cup, and I know our priority is the league, but I won't complain if we make it into the next round, because I think as well, anything that lifts morale and momentum is good. And obviously, having just lost a game, especially, I think it would be nice if we can and knowing that we're going into this tough run of fixtures as well, it might be an opportunity to focus on picking up a win. I know it's not points in the league, but just to get that feeling back and try and ride a bit more of that wave. And plus, I love the FA Cup, so I'm up for it. I want us to go out there and put in a good performance, whoever's starting. I think given the fact we know we have a pretty small squad, obviously there's only so many changes that we just mentioned. The squad on Monday night is probably not far off some of the choices we might actually see. But I'm up for it. I'll go. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think there is something magic about it, isn't it? I know everyone talks about it, but there is something magic about the FA Cup, and I think we really need to quickly forget Monday, as in we had a good performance and they punished us for the few chances they had, and focus on the positives, because we really have started to build something good under Pereira. And as you mentioned, the upcoming fixtures in the Premier League, just to remind all of our listeners out there, that we go to Newcastle away after Bristol, then we go to Chelsea away, and then we host Arsenal at the Molineux. So the 3 fixtures after that are 3 difficult ones. So yeah, I think we do need to look at the bigger picture and the winning form thing. And yeah, I think that a defeat, I don't want to think about it too much, but a defeat at Bristol could do sort of a misery compiler to the Monday night defeat against Forest. So yeah, that just a fixture reminder. But I love the FA Cup. That when Bueno scored against Coventry, I nearly lost my voice, and then I was quickly brought back down to earth. But it was absolutely fantastic.
It was great. I will say, I mean, my memories of the FA Cup as well going back to the 90s. The likes of Don Goodman scoring, in our semi-final appearances against Arsenal and stuff when we had a really good run the one year. Some great memories of the FA Cup, even though it's been forever since we won it. But yeah, the magic is there still, and I'm still an old person that believes the semi-final should not be played at Wembley. Just going to mention that as an aside, but that could be a Wildcard Wednesday debate for some day.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, as a younger person, Chris, I agree with you.
Yay!
I agree. I think it's I don't know. It just feels like, obviously it's great to have a big event at Wembley, and I think for smaller teams, and especially if you're looking at like League 1, League 2 teams, that day out is huge. But surely you'd want to maybe dot it around other stadiums around England just to get some, I don't know, some eyes on different stadiums. Like,
well, yeah,
I don't know,
and
off the
it
top of my head,
brings
Newcastle's.
yeah, sorry, and it brings commerce to those different like the benefits before were various because obviously it keeps the sanctity and the the like the sacred form of Wembley for the finale, where it's a special, like it's the final. It should be in the biggest place, or like the heart of football, and then having the semi-final still be in large stadiums, whether it's somewhere like Old Trafford or heaven forbid Villa Park or just wherever nowadays, somewhere different and bigger for the smaller teams. It also brings trade to those areas for that day, like not just London, because London's got enough trade as it is. Like spread it around because it brings them some of the commerce and the magic and the marketing to all those other places as well, and can still be a massive gate for a smaller team.
Absolutely. I think the big advantage of Wembley is obviously, I don't know, transport access to London's obviously very good, but then also the size of the stadium means you can pack more fans into it. Although I do feel like for these big semi-finals and stuff, so many of the tickets go away to like corporate.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the actual general access to tickets is Wembley 90,000, 85, something like that. I feel like each team gets about 30 or 20 odd thousand, something like that. Last time I was looking.
I'm aware I've derailed the conversation again. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I couldn't resist.
No, that's the magic of the FA Cup, Chris. That's what it does to you.
It is.
Yeah. So, do we have any final thoughts on the Wolves climate at the minute, Chris? Any final thoughts before we leave our listeners today?
Just that the signings can't come soon enough. Obviously, we're waiting for confirmation of the signing of Agbadu. I'm going to say that as if I've said it with confidence, because by all accounts, he's had his medical and we're literally just waiting for work permits or something to come through. Because the rumours are that if he's cleared in time, they could put him into the Bristol City game. Because arguably that would be a good way to get some almost use it as a practice time for him to connect with the team and start to play with them, but without the pressure of his first game being something like Newcastle. So that would be great if they can get him cleared before Saturday to come in and just have that experience against the lower division team. I think that would be ideal. And then obviously we're waiting for the announcement hopefully for Cunha to sign off on his new contracts, because by all accounts it's pretty much done and dusted. New 4.5-year deal with an option for an additional year, and apparently there's a relegation release clause of £45 million, which even if we were to go down, that's a pretty tidy one, just so that he may make the money back.
Let's not think about that.
I know, but that covers the money we spent on him essentially, because he was a huge signing at the time. But it just goes to show how much they think he's worth if we stay in the league, because that's the release price. So that means they're looking for even higher, which it should be for anything beyond that. And so let's cross our fingers that it's all signed off in the next few days.
Yeah, definitely. And if he does stay with us and eventually leaves it, and we're still in the Premier League, as you said, it would be a bit of a ka-ching moment, wouldn't it? But yeah, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for listening today. All we have to do is wait for Agbadu to sign on the dotted line. But that's it from us today. And as always, as we finish these episodes, just a quick reminder that out of darkness cometh light.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.